Kate, welcome to the Jewelry Business Academy podcast. I'm so excited to have you joining me today, and I know you're going to be hosting this episode. You're going to be putting me in the hot seat. So I'm excited. I'm excited to hear what your questions are. I'm excited to be diving into this with you. But before we dive in, would you like to go ahead and just introduce yourself to our listeners and just share, the business that you're building, where you're based, and just a little bit about you?
Sure. So yeah, thanks, Robyn, for having me here and actually allowing me to be the host and put you in the hot seat. I think that's just a super exciting opportunity where, we can really ask those specific questions that are kind of at the back of my mind. So thanks for that. A little bit about me. So I am the founder of BGLY Brooches. I'm originally from Australia and I've been living in Europe for the last 10 years. I'm based in Malaga, Spain and Milan in Italy, and I tend to travel between the two places. Now, BGLY Brooches it's a modern men's brooch. It's designed to elevate a look. It's a conversation starter. And, it's to capture those moments where those special memories are to be remembered. So, at a wedding, or it could be an anniversary or birthday. And it's just about having that subtle but intentional detail. So it's not about being too standoutish or anything like that. And this idea really just came through, my history of the family being in a menswear business for 30 years. So I have an appreciation for the men's detail, the cuts and so forth like that. And also my grandmother, who also was an avid brooch collector. So I thought, why not put those two, I guess, passions together?
Oh my goodness. I love that so much, Kate. And it's such a unique business as well. I'm so excited for you. And I think what makes this an extra special episode is obviously you've been in the Jewelry Business Academy. You're in the Jewelry Business Academy for a while now. And I just want to give you a huge shout out before we even get started here, because you came in and you crushed the 10-day sprint in the Jewelry Business Academy. Like, you just showed up, you did the work, you didn't make excuses. Like, you just showed up and did the work and took action. And basically within 10, 15 days, your business was like there, like this business was built. And now you're in that stage of like, okay, now we're marketing, now we're like building that customer base and we're building awareness and stuff. But you did what a lot of people will take 6 months, 2 years. Like, I've seen people take 10 years to get through what you did in 10, 15 days. So just a huge shout out to you for not allowing yourself to over question things, like just taking action. You just took action.
Yeah.
So effectively.
Yeah. I think, I really saw the 10-day challenge as a challenge. And I really more saw it that, okay, you gave the content and that helped me and guided me. And I thought, well, if I do it now, then it's all done. If I do it at the same time, because if I watch all this now, I'm going to forget it maybe in a week's time, when other things are happening. So that was really my priority, is just, okay, let's just smash the 10 days and get it out and get it done.
Oh my gosh. I love it. And how do you feel about that now? Like, how do you feel looking back?
I mean, it's incredible that it is all there. And I do have the website and I do have the Instagram and I do have my packaging structure and, a plan in place. I do know I have to go back, and I think we said that it's not 100% perfect, but, maybe it's 80% perfect. So there's still some tweaking in that, but at least I know I have the foundations there in that sense, which is great.
Oh yeah, 100%. I mean, business is all about refinement.
Yeah.
It's all about refinement. And so even businesses that have been in business for 20 years, like, they still go through that same process of refining all these different things, the offer, the website, all of that. But why don't you kick us off with our first question?
Sure.
I'm excited to hear this one.
Yeah, so I want to create a bit of a scenario with the first question, and then hopefully it just goes with the flow there. And I guess it relates to, where my situation is. You've got your website set up, you've got your product, you've got your packaging ready, but you don't really have the audience or the traction that you're looking for. So how do you drive your first sales, and, where would you focus?
Yeah, I love this question so much because I think it's going to be relevant to so many of our listeners as well, where, you've built the business, you've got the website, you've got your Instagram, you've got this gorgeous collection, you've got the pricing done. And from the outside, it's like, I've done the work. I've built it. Why are they not coming? And I remember navigating this as well when I was a jewelry designer. I thought, if I build it, they will come. So I invested in photographers, like had gorgeous photos, gorgeous website, Instagram, everything. And it didn't just happen overnight. And I think it's the most confusing stage because it looks like everything's ready to roll, but the sales don't necessarily come straight away and it takes time. And so what happens is we start getting a little frustrated. We start questioning, have I done the right thing? Is there a market for this? Is the economy like impacting sales? Do people actually not want what I'm selling? Have I overpriced myself? And so we kind of get into this trap of overthinking in this stage, and starting to feel frustrated and thinking, oh, I need to lower my prices to drive sales. I need to hustle more to drive sales. I need to do all these different things, or we keep ourselves busy. A
Mm,
lot of business owners, most business owners are not lazy. They are doing the work, but they're avoiding the vulnerable work often. And so at this stage, when everything's ready, what we really want to do is get your minimum viable product out to market ASAP.
yeah.
Minimum viable product. Again, people are hesitant because they're like, oh, but there's like a few issues with this. This isn't perfect. This isn't what I want. I want to refine this. I want my website better. I want this better. No, we have to just get that minimum viable product out to market. And now, what's the most effective way to do that when every new business comes in at a different stage. So there are new businesses where it's like, yes, it's a new business, but the owner has owned 6 businesses in the past. So they've got
Mm,
an audience, they've got an email list, they've got an Instagram community. They've nailed marketing over 6 years. Like
yeah.
they're starting at a very different point from someone who's like, I've never built a business. I've never done Instagram marketing. I've never sold jewelry before. And I don't have an email list, 0 on my email list, new followers, maybe 50 followers on Instagram. These two businesses are starting at a very different point. So
Exactly.
if you already have the email list and you already have following, it is easy to start posting and get that minimum viable product out very quickly through social media.
Mm,
If you're starting and you have 0, well, what we need to do is we need to be marketing and posting and starting to build our email list and doing collabs to get visibility. But what's a really effective approach here is in person, because you can very quickly get into a pop-up, get into stores and do in-person sales and test the market and get
yeah.
very quick feedback that you just can't get online. If you can't do in person, we're going to be looking at then like Instagram lives. But if again, you don't have any followers, we need Instagram lives with another business owner who has your audience. We have to be exposed to that audience. And so we have to get out there and sell.
Mm,
A lot of your first sales are not going to necessarily come from email or from social media if you don't have that base yet. They come from people, meeting people, doing events, doing lives, and they're done through direct connection, going to stores and selling to the stores. And so it obviously changes. Nobody wants to be doing that full time, but your very first few sales, if you're brand new, that's the quickest way. If you don't have that ability, well, then we are going to market and it will take a little longer. And we're going to do collabs and we're going to expand our audience and we're going to drive connection, drive visibility, drive conversion, and drive sales. So, does that answer your question, Kate?
I
Because
think so. Yeah.
yeah,
I found it very interesting. You kind of differentiated the two. So it was the in-person sales and then it was kind of the online sales. And I think you're right. Through my experience, I thought that Instagram, there's so many people on Instagram and it's going to be easier to get exposure, but it actually takes a lot of work as a small business, that doesn't have those 6 businesses or people followers behind to
yeah,
build that exposure. Whereas I think that interpersonal face-to-face connection, people can see it, they can feel it, they can get to know the individual behind the brand and not just, on Instagram, I guess it's more the brand that you see. You don't see the real person in front of you to an
yeah.
extent.
100%. I mean, on social media, you don't definitely want to see the person who's running the business and stuff, but it's
Yes.
just easier when you meet someone. You can turn someone into a super fan so quickly, and then you
Yes.
can start driving repeat sales online. But yeah, I think that's the biggest like mistake I see new businesses making is that they spend too much time writing this, researching, seeing what other people are doing, jumping strategies, hopping on
Mm,
trends on social media. None of that is actually what they need to be doing at that stage. We just need to be very focused and actually do less but better, and
yeah.
either crush social media. If you have emails, great, or just like get that in-person contact or Instagram lives, collabs and stuff going, and really focus on one channel to get those initial sales coming through. Get real humans. If you can get real humans and real human feedback, it's game changing for your business. Because imagine you're doing a pop-up and you have this jewelry and you've got your minimum viable collection out there, but when people come by, you see that lots of people are like, oh, like this doesn't actually fit me, or oh, you know what, does like they're going to have questions. You'll
Yeah.
very quickly see, oh, these are questions I need to answer in my marketing. But online, people are very unlikely to, for a new brand, reach out and say, hey Kate, I have these questions about these pieces. They're not going to do that.
No.
They will when you're a more established brand, but a new brand, it's just too much energy and headspace. So you are able to then answer those questions online, and then it's going to build momentum online as well. So
Yeah.
yeah, I think we need to focus on selling directly if we can.
Hmm.
It is vulnerable. It brings up a lot of self-doubt.
Yeah.
And I think that's where having like an outside perspective really matters. Having people that can encourage you to be like, no, this is what you need to do, because otherwise we're like, I'm not ready for this. I need XYZ. But those are the things that are going to build momentum in your business.
No, 100%. And I think that's a great idea, is having a bit of a buddy, because
Yeah.
I think it's harder to sell your own product, but when it's someone else's product,
Oh,
there's a
so
lot
much
less,
easier.
it's so much easier, right? And
Yeah.
I think and I've noticed also that within myself is that uh, I struggle to sell my product, even though I love it and believe in it, and those kind of things. But to sell it to someone else is a completely different story, and
Oh,
it creates
yeah.
that vulnerability. Yeah,
A
yeah, it's
hundred
super.
percent. And the only way through this, like, I'm all for mindset work. You know, we have
Mm,
mindset work and stuff in the Jewelry Business Academy. But for stuff like this, for that fear around sales or being too much or being annoying, the most effective way to combat this is not like sitting there and writing lines and reading them out to yourself. No, it's literally just by going and taking messy action and
yeah,
starting to stack evidence. That when you go and do this, you are starting to drive connection. And one other thing I'd say, Kate, is that when we are looking for those first sales, we also forget that sales isn't the only metric to look for in
mm,
the early stages of business.
yeah,
Sales is one metric of success. It's a very valuable metric of success, but so is people stopping and second, like taking another look. So is people even asking questions. So is people touching and picking it up and being like, oh my gosh, this would be great for uncle whatever, or whoever it is. So is people reaching out via DM, even people just following you. These are metrics of success.
yeah.
And we often just don't look at that. We just look at the money, but it's like the money takes time sometimes to come in.
Exactly. That's true. And then it also shows the behavior as well, right, of the people. So if you see that they're coming and touching and, exploring there, that there's an interest there. Okay.
Yeah.
And then how are they interacting with the product and so forth like that. So yeah, it's a
Yeah.
very good point.
Yeah.
Okay. So say we go down the channel of the human interaction, and you kind of brought up two different channels through that way. And one was, whether it was wholesale or consignment, or, with stores, and one was events. Now, which one would you kind of approach more so first? Because, and this is maybe my perception, is that in a wholesale and in consignment, maybe the businesses and the companies want more of a reputable brand. Is that how you kind of see it, or how would you approach or would you tackle both at the same time? Where would you focus?
Yeah, this is such a good question, Kate, and you're 100% right. When you're going to do wholesale and consignment and stuff, the stores want to see data. They don't want
Mm,
to, like, nobody, like, stores are going to be wary of buying a brand that has no sales data because it's a risk to them. Consignment is less risky, but again, what's in it for them if they go to your Instagram page and there's 10 posts that you've ever done and you have 7 followers? The way a lot of stores draw in customers is by bringing in brands with followers.
mm,
And so I if I was starting a jewelry business all over again from scratch, I've thought about this a lot. I would have it up and running and like generating sales in minimum maximum 6 weeks. Like that
yeah.
would be it. 6 weeks, I would be like, we need to be making money. And the way I do that is I would get as many events as I can in those first 6 weeks once I got my product and stuff, and very quickly build up sales data and then get into stores on consignment very quickly because I
Yeah.
get the data, get the social media action going, show that I'm serious about this business, show that I'm visible, show that I'm building community, show that I'm building connection. Stores care about that. So then if you go, and even if you only have a very small following, they can see that you are going places. They can
Yes.
see the intention. They can see how you're taking it seriously. Um, it will make a huge difference. And then consignment has no risk. I wouldn't necessarily be going for wholesale just yet. I would probably wait till at least 90 days of sales data to start down that route.
Okay. And then let's say you do those 90 days and you've got the data. How do you know the difference between something that's working and then, something that maybe needs more time, or, it's not performing maybe as good as some of the other collections or products that you have?
Yeah. Okay. This is a great question because 90 days is going to look different for every business owner. So, somebody who's part time building this business, in 90 days, the sales data they're going to have versus a business who's full time, who's experienced, who this is their second or third business, they're going to have very different data. And a lot of people do make decisions too early
Mm,
in terms of what to cut, when to pivot, and they play the short game in business. So they're like, oh, if I've posted about this product 7 times or 15 times and it hasn't sold, it's a sign that this is a bad product. No, it could also be a sign that your marketing isn't there yet. You're still practicing becoming a good marketer. You're still nailing down your messaging. You're still driving visibility. You're still building trust. So I'd say 90 days is a good point to check in. And again, not just check in on the data, but look at what did you actually do to show up in these 90 days. And it's quite confronting sometimes as a business owner. If you're like, okay, we're 90 days in, or even if you're scaling and you're like, okay, I'm going to do a double down for 90 days and then I'm going to see what's working, what's not. But ask yourself and write this down. How many Instagram posts have I posted in the last 90 days? And which products were those focusing on? It's quite confronting for people when you actually look at the numbers. How many emails did I send? And how
mm,
many people did those go to? When you look at this, how many collabs did I do? How many events did I do? Um, how many CTAs to buy did I do? When we
mm,
look at that data, often, like I've seen business owners where they're like, oh my gosh, nobody's buying this. I need to change my pricing. I need to do this. And I'm like, take a deep breath, take a step back. Let's just look at the data here, like without feeling shame over, oh, I should be doing more XYZ. It's not about shaming ourselves. It's just about like, wouldn't it be unrealistic for someone to even post 90 times in total in 90 days and expect a $15,000 month? That
mm,
doesn't happen unless you have more traction. It doesn't
yeah.
happen if you're brand new. And that's what they forget. They start comparing themselves to an established brand who has a community of super fans who know them, who love them, who trust them. So when an established brand posts about 7 to 10 times, they're driving good sales because people know them. And so a new business comparing themselves is saying to themselves, oh, well, I'm having to post more and I'm not seeing the results they're getting. I
Mm,
must be doing something wrong. Obviously, this strategy doesn't work, or XYZ. I actually saw somebody post the other day saying that she's been in the industry many, many years and she can conclude that Instagram doesn't drive sales.
Yeah,
And
interesting.
it was interesting for me to see that because I know this person quite well.
Yeah.
And this is somebody who refuses to double down on Instagram and just try.
Yeah.
Has one way of doing it, and this is the way. And if this way doesn't work, then it doesn't work. But never mind that it works for hundreds of thousands of people. Never mind that it's just a platform. It's the same as email. It's the same as TikTok. These are all just platforms for you to share your message. If it's not hitting, the message isn't right there. So we sometimes like to blame platforms and say, oh, this just isn't effective, but we don't want to look at what we're doing and our responsibility and our role in that. So I would also just say to everyone listening, be careful whose like offhanded comments you take to heart. Because just because something doesn't work for someone else doesn't mean it's not going to work for you. You don't actually know what blocks they have around implementing it. You don't know how effectively they've implemented, how much they've tested it, how consistent they've been. These are typically people who've just never been consistent even for 90 days with something. And that's, again, no shame to them. But when they say offhanded things where it's like, this just doesn't work, it's not true. It's true for them, the way they're doing it. So I think that's an important thing to keep in mind. And I've gone completely off topic here, Kate. But if we come back to your question.
We're going to.
Yeah, if we come back to your question, which was... Remind me your question again.
It was personally the difference between something not working and something that needs more time.
Yeah. So honestly, most business owners start pivoting and tweaking, and there's nothing wrong with pivoting. I'm all for pivoting, but they pivot, they strategy hop, they bail on things just before it gets good.
Yeah. Okay.
They stop before it gets good. I even have examples of, like, I have a client who we're very much about being persistent with key strategies. Like, we're not going to, we don't overcomplicate it. It's like, if you're doing wholesale, here's the strategy, and you need to be reaching out multiple times and you need to be following up. I had a client who reached out and followed up and got zero response from one store in particular for over a year. Then out of the blue, they get this email, this huge order comes in. This is an example where most people would have been like, I sent 5 emails and no response. I'm giving up. They don't want to buy from me. So we start telling ourselves these stories that they're not the ideal customer. This. And we forget that this is part of marketing.
Yeah.
80% of sales come at the 8th to 20th follow-up in established businesses. If you're a new business, well, welcome. 200 follow-ups. So people quit before it gets good. And it's unfortunate because, I mean, you'll see this in your business as well. There are times where you're showing up, you're putting in the work, and you're not necessarily seeing the results yet. People forget that there's a yet. That timeline is slightly different for everyone. The momentum builds at a slightly different pace for everyone. So we sometimes compare ourselves to other businesses and we're like, oh, well, Jenny over here is doing XYZ. I guess it's working for her. I guess I should do the same. And then we do that for 6 weeks, don't see results. Sarah's doing this. Let me try this. And then we're just jumping. We lose our focus. We get overwhelmed. We get tired. We get frustrated. And if we had only just stuck doing the boring thing, which is being consistent, doing those key tasks that we need to do, and practiced getting better at them and refining them, we would see results quicker.
No, definitely. And I think that comparison piece is such a big thing for a small or big business. You know, you have so much exposure to other, business owners, and I wouldn't even call them competition, because I think everyone has their own niche and their own style and, their own product. But we just see that, or the perception that they're doing well. And, there's also fake information on these social media where people say, hey, I've made, 6 figures or 7 figures by doing this business model. And it's like, but really, how do you know who to trust? And then that puts the pressure on you as well, right? Because you're constantly comparing yourself against, what is supposedly out there on social media and etc.
Yeah, comparison will make your business building journey hell. Like
Yeah.
you will always feel like you're not good enough, like you're behind, and you don't know the reality behind the scenes of these brands. You know, it's interesting. There's so many beautifully polished jewelry brands out there who've invested lots in photography, and their
Mm,
page is just stunning. Their
yeah.
jewelry is stunning. The price is right. The website's gorgeous. Behind it, they don't necessarily make much money.
Yeah.
I know people who have 60,000 followers, beautiful page, beautiful jewelry, have all the right people working in their team, not driving that much sales. And then I have clients who have 2,000 followers, very scrappy social media, but they're showing up in a way that drives real connection and real
Yeah.
community, and they're making six figures. So
Yeah.
and it's interesting because I've actually had somebody reach out to me. This was probably at some point last year. She reached out and she's like, I looked at some of your clients' Instagram profiles, and it's clear that they don't know what they're doing. I want someone to teach me a more professional approach to Instagram because I want to build a successful brand. So I'm not going to come and join you. And I was like, oh, girl, if only you knew.
Yeah.
That's like an old school approach to marketing. Like you've seen on our calls, like I'm
Yeah.
intentionally like, we need real.
Yeah.
That old school approach of a professional looking page makes us feel good as business owners. It feeds our ego, doesn't
Hmm.
feed sales, doesn't feed our bank accounts,
Yeah.
unfortunately. But also, it's kind of beautiful that you can show up more real. You can show up in a more real
Authentic.
and authentic way. You can show up with no makeup and
Yeah.
be selling $3,000 pieces of jewelry. Like what a beautiful world that actually gets to be your reality. And so yeah, I think people look up to the wrong brand sometimes.
Yeah.
And then they try replicate, and yeah, it's a tough one.
And I actually, it's interesting because I don't know if my mindset has changed or my approach has changed with social media, but I tend to watch now when I'm going through the scroll hole. People,
I like the name.
yeah, yeah, it's like a black hole, but it's the scroll hole. But it's the people I tend to watch more of are the ones
Mm,
that are just being their individual self, talking about their day to day life. And then all of a sudden they say, hey, if you use this code, get 10% off. And I'm like, but it's still them because it's about their journey in their life. It's not
yeah.
them trying to like, they've probably got the marketing and the sales later on, but they first wanted to be their, well, I would say social media authentic self. It's not
Yeah.
too polished or anything like that, which is, you know,
Yeah, polish doesn't hit. And I think we have a tendency when we show up on social media to, when you call a doctor's office to book an appointment and you
yes.
show up with like that voice, we show up on social media with the same. It's
That's
a
true.
really hard thing to break. And I have done social media now for many years. So I don't do that when I do social media. But when I film ads, do you know how hard it is for me not to go into like an ads voice and just to be real? It's just like wired in us, and it just takes practice to lower that. Because yeah, you'll see now, like you'll probably see when you're scrolling,
Yeah.
some people come across, especially new business owners, they come across as rigid and like official and saying the right things. We just get bored. We just
Yeah.
scroll right by. It
Yeah.
doesn't hit.
No, exactly. And it's true. And how did I know you mentioned there about it takes practice to get away from that commercial, professional voice, I guess, when you're on the screen.
Yeah.
But how do you pick yourself up? Like, how do you stop yourself from, I guess, doing that talk? Is there any techniques that you kind of use to get away from it?
Yeah, great question. So this is why we have the two shoot max rule in the JBA. I don't
Yeah.
want anyone shooting a piece of content more than twice, because the more we do it, the more that filter kind of comes up.
Yeah.
But a really great way to get over this is to do Instagram lives or
Okay.
podcasts. Why? Because we can keep our masks up for like a few minutes and then things happen. We spill our tea, we drop something, the cat jumps on the table, and then we drop all those masks and we settle into ourselves. And then we see evidence of, oh, things went wrong. I showed up as myself and nobody's like criticizing me. Nobody's like, my body's safe. people are kind of finding it funny. I'm actually
Yeah.
connecting to people more. And so our body starts feeling safe as we stack that evidence. So lives are so valuable for that. And I
Yeah.
think people don't realize, because you can only keep that facade up for like a certain amount of time, and it just drops. It's like a podcast. Like
Yeah.
you could come on being like, I'm gonna be this version of myself, but
But after
you've
a
probably
while,
already forgotten that we're recording. And you just
exactly.
then like settle into yourself.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I've definitely sunk a bit more into my chair and, got a bit more relaxed in that sense as well. So yeah, that
Yeah. And
totally
then
makes sense.
also just recording while you're walking.
Yeah.
Recording while you're walking and moving and doing something else. It takes the focus away. It helps you feel more relaxed. And then yeah, it's just a practice. It's just doing it consistently until you're like you drop those walls. And even I've seen it with clients. So when clients come in, we do that 10-day video challenge. And I've even seen we've had a couple of people just come in who are not comfortable on video. Within like 3 days, I already see them just talking, just being them, talking as though we're sitting at a coffee table, chit-chatting. They're not talking as a business owner, and that makes a huge difference.
Awesome. No, super nice. And then maybe going back to the 90-day, I guess, approach to driving your first sales, you kind of mentioned, there's a lot of things that you need to do and organize and structure and reach out to people and organize events. And, and that puts, I think you mentioned it as well, that puts a lot of pressure. Well, you put a lot of pressure and also expectation on yourself as a business owner, right? That you need to drive the
Mm.
sales, you need to get, so somewhat, I guess, for yourself, when early on in stage, how did you kind of, I guess, identify that you were putting too much pressure on yourself? And then how did you kind of fix that, I guess?
Oh, this is such a good question, Kate. And I mean, I'm looking back and I can't tell you how much I'm grateful for my journey, because it led me to where I am now. And I'm also so sad that I didn't have a program like the Jewelry Business Academy and the 90-day blueprint and that to just follow, because I was insanely hard on myself. And I never had that moment of realizing that I was putting insane pressure on myself. Like
Yeah.
I never had that ability to be like, what, Robyn, like this is an insane amount of pressure for someone who was building their first business, was in a new country, had moved, like I've moved countries like 6 different times, was establishing myself there in the new country and building this business. And like, there was so much happening. And I never even took a moment to question that. And that kind of makes me sad, because I think it's a worthiness thing. It's a worthiness thing of thinking, I have to hit XYZ financial milestones to feel worthy of friendship and love and this and this and this. And so that was my journey. I never had that moment, but I see a lot of business owners when if they're going to double down for 90 days, and doubling down for 90 days looks different for everyone. It's interesting because we just did our workshop with our clients. You were there, where we mapped out 2026 together, and every client's calendar, I was getting clients to share their calendars, and everyone's calendar is different. So the next 90 days for different clients looks very different. Some are working 5 days a week. Some work 5 hours a month, and that's them
Mm.
doubling down because of chronic illness or XYZ. Like they have different situations. So I would say what we're looking for when we're doubling down is like having rest days, even in those seasons, making sure we have rest days, and also checking in and being like, am I ending every day feeling completely wiped out? Am I going to bed at night feeling anxious about the next day? Am I telling myself this constant story like I should be doing more, I'm not doing enough, I need to look more legit, I need to look more polished? If we find ourselves telling ourselves those stories, that's a sign that we're putting too much pressure on ourselves. And I think I would like encourage anyone who's navigating that to ask yourself, why are you putting that pressure on yourself? Why do you have this specific timeline? And that if you don't hit XYZ revenue by this specific date, you're
Mm.
either going to quit, or you're going to pivot, or you're going to give up, or whatever it is. Because we sometimes do that. And I'm like, well, where did you get that date from? Why do
Mm.
we feel like in the nicest way, why do we feel entitled to sales within a certain timeline just because we built it?
Yeah.
Nobody's entitled to sales. Like
Yeah.
nobody's just entitled to people buying from us. And I think when we realize like we're not just entitled to sales, and yes, we have to show up, and yes, we have to play the long game. When we double down in those 90 days and we're showing up, we also know that we could hit those goals earlier, but
Yeah.
it could take 6 months. And
Yeah.
we have to keep that in mind, because there is no guarantee in business. It's one of the things I love about it, and it's also one of the things that like means that business isn't for everyone.
Yeah. That's
Um,
true.
it means that there's no cap on your earning, but it also means like it could just take you longer. And I think always just taking a moment to be like, okay, right now it's hard. Right now I'm showing up. But if I keep going, imagine 6 months from now looking back, what I'll have achieved. Even if I'm not quite at my goal, let's say your goal in 6 months is to have made $40,000, but you're at 25,000. Isn't that still better than where you're at now? And
Yeah.
then 1 year from now, you're maybe at 100,000 or 75,000, and you keep building. One thing I just remember thinking on my journey was, I don't care how hard it is. I literally didn't care how hard it was. I didn't care how cringy it was. I
Mm.
didn't care how long it took me. I just knew that the alternative was being in a corporate job and having a low-key chronic suffering for the next 40 years. So
Yeah.
40 years of being in a corporate job to me is the absolute worst case scenario. And how amazing that our worst case scenario is most people's best case scenario.
Yeah. Ah, that's a great way to put it, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
It really puts things in perspective. It's like, okay, yeah, this is hard. Yeah, I'm showing up and it's not building momentum as fast as I wanted. Doesn't mean I'm going to quit. It's like my podcast. You know how many, I mean, I've been consistently putting out 1 to 2. We even had a season where we're putting out 3 a week for years now. Do
Yes.
you know how long, like we have listeners in like, I think it's over 100 countries at this point around the world. But do you know that we had like very little listeners for the first year? Very little. And most people would have been like, well, this is a lot of work. It's a lot of money. It's a lot of time. It's a lot of energy.
Mm.
I'm not going to do this.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
some things take time. Even like Alex Hormozy, I think he had his podcasts on YouTube for like 5 years doing this every single week. Didn't build momentum until like the 5-year mark. So
Yeah.
most people quit in business, or they give up, or they pivot just too early.
Yeah. And I think, but I also think that's the piece to the puzzle in a sense that people, again, it's the perception of what is portrayed on social media that everything just happens overnight. You know, it's like, wow, this person is successful. Wow, they got 1 million viewers, and you know, oh, I want to get there, but I only have 50, or you know, but I should be there. And you know, if I do a couple of posts, then in the next couple of months I should have millions. But these people took a lot of time, took a lot of research, and maybe there was 1 or 2 that was very fortunate, but usually behind the scenes, it's actually years to get to that success as well, right? I think
Oh,
patience is the most
100%.
important piece.
Patience is so important. I mean, so many of my friends are business owners. Like I'd say the majority of my friends right now are business owners. Obviously, I still have friends in the corporate world, but the majority of business owners, and they all make anywhere between, I'm going to say 60,000 a year and 40 million a year. So we have
Yeah.
a big range. The ones that are in at the lower point, they just haven't spent enough time in business. They just newer to business. The
Yeah.
ones doing 40 million are not in their first year of business. They're 12 years in
Yeah.
or 15 years in. The ones doing 600,000 a year, years in. And so what we see on social media is someone blowing up overnight who has put 10 years often of work in to get to that overnight success.
Yes. Yeah. Exactly.
And I don't want that to scare anyone listening, but it's not just like the actions that we have to take to get to that point. It's who we have to become
Yeah.
to get to that point as well. And I look back and I'm so grateful that business has been hard over the years, because imagine the first time you posted, you just sold out everything and then you just kept selling out. You would never have had to grow as a person. You would never have had to become the version of you that you are. And I look back and I'm like, oh my gosh, I was so timid. I was such a people pleaser. I was like all these things and lots of wonderful things as well. But I'm like, I'm so glad that I was forced to grow in these ways. I was forced to find my voice. I was forced to show up on social media, and I was the shyest, quietest, most awkward person ever. I
Yeah.
would have been shocked to know that I have a podcast. I would have been shocked to know that I show up every day on video on social media and like it's really not a big deal. I was forced because business is hard and it requires you to grow to
Mm,
become this version of myself. And I'm like so grateful for that, because it's not just impacted my life in terms of my business, it's impacted my relationships, it's impacted what I tolerate, it's impacted my
mm,
quality of life in so many other ways that we sometimes
yeah.
forget about. So like anyone who's going through the hard seasons right now, I know it's sometimes hard to see the perspective of it, but I always just try shift your perspective. Think of your 80-year-old self looking back on your life and being like, oh my gosh, your 80-year-old self is going to be so proud that you stepped out your comfort zone, that you were resilient and you kept showing up even when it wasn't working, because eventually it did, or,
Yeah.
you know, this XYZ happened. Nothing worth building comes overnight. Like it just
No.
doesn't. Nothing
100%.
worth nothing worth it is easy. Nothing worth it comes overnight. It's the same as like somebody who has babies.
Yeah.
Babies are adorable. They're so cute. And how, like, speak to any parent, it's like probably the hardest thing they've ever done in their life, but it's worth it. Same thing
Yeah.
with business.
Yeah. 100%. And they all take a lot of time and a lot of years
Yeah.
as well, right? So, and it never
Yeah.
stops.
It never stops.
Yeah,
You just
exactly.
get better at handling the challenges, and it's just different challenges. Same in business.
Yeah. And you mentioned before about, you know, your, I guess, the younger self and the beginning, I guess, the entrepreneur at the very beginning, more timid and so forth. What was the change, or what made you realize that you needed to change? Like your mindset
Mm.
and your approach. Was there something you read? Was it a coach? Was it like, and then where did you kind of
Mm.
identify, well, the way I'm working now is just not working?
Yeah, that's a great question. So I identified that because I was 6 months in and it had made like a couple of $100 in total.
Yeah.
And I was full time in my business. I just
Yeah.
left the corporate world because I wanted to be put in a place of I have no option but to make this work. I didn't want to have an easy way out.
Yeah.
Um, Very stupid, but that's what I did. Um, and I got to a point where I was like, this is it. This is my last month as a business owner. If I don't hit over 10,000 next month, I can't afford this, because I went and I use credit cards. So for
Yeah.
some people, like, we build up a savings. I sat down when I was in my corporate job and I worked out how many months I would need to put away money from my job to save, to have a buffer, to go full time in business.
Hmm.
It was like 10 years. And I was like,
Wow.
I'm not going to waste 10 years. I'm going to max out multiple credit cards and use that to fund my entrepreneurial journey. And yes, you're going to pay interest, but that to me is the cost of entry at this stage. How many
Yeah.
years am I saving by paying a couple of $1,000s? It's like I look back and I'm like, I'm so grateful I did that, because it
Yeah.
fast tracked me into entrepreneurship. And it put me in a position where I had to make money because I had to pay those off and I had to be sustainable and all that stuff.
Yeah.
So it came from from needing. I
Yeah.
had no option. I didn't have family I could like who could be supporting me and paying me and like all of that. I had to financially support myself. And so it just came from, well, either this works or I get a job at McDonald's next month. I gave
Yeah.
myself 1 month and I was like, we're going to do everything that's uncomfortable. We're going
Yeah.
to literally, I just want to know I'm okay with failing. I was very okay with failing, but I was like, I just want to be able to look back and know that I gave it my all.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
imagine failing and looking back and being like, well, it didn't work out, but like I also didn't try this and this. So like if I had done these things, maybe it would have worked. Like that would be the worst feeling.
Yeah. And I think that that short-term pressure of putting on
Mm.
yourself to achieve that goal, like sometimes you need it, because if you're
Yeah.
some people need it, right? If you're too complacent, then things take a little bit longer, or it doesn't happen because you're in your comfort zone.
Oh
And there's
yeah.
not a sense of urgency.
Yeah, I see this a lot. Some people are too comfortable and
Yeah.
they just never make things happen. if anybody's listening to this and you're at rock bottom or you're in a really financially tough situation, honestly, I see people thrive in business from this place, because when you're really in a low position or you have no option but to make it work, you stop caring what people think. You just go and do what you have to do to survive,
Mm,
and then you work through all those blocks by taking action. Some people build businesses, and there's nothing wrong with this, but some people just have too much money behind them or partners supporting them, which is beautiful, and it just slightly keeps them a little too comfortable.
yeah.
And so they take steps, they do what's required, but they do it like at a pace you can sense the urgency, you can sense the conviction.
Yes.
It is different, and I'm not saying anyone needs to go put yourself in a hard position. You can still build a successful business without doing that. But I think, like you said, Kate, putting these like little timelines, being like, okay, let's double down for the next 4 weeks, and let's just look at those things that we're shying away from that we know we need to do, and
Yeah.
let's just go do them.
Yeah, exactly. No, so true, so true. And then thinking about that as well, when you look at obviously with the JBA and so forth, when you're meeting new founders, new business owners during the early phase, do you see anyone or do you see certain personalities or traits that kind of set them, I guess you can kind of see that they're going to be successful in their career or in their business, or and maybe some are surprising, right? They surprise you as well because you just don't expect it. But do you see any, I guess, traits in people early on in their business?
Yeah, this is a really good question, Kate. And I actually was talking to someone about this the other day. It's very interesting to me, the business owners that really do really well in the Jewelry Business Academy are sometimes the most unexpected ones. It's
Mm,
often like the really shy, awkward, not necessarily comfortable on camera people who come in who are people where I kind of would like to, and this is hopefully everyone listening, nobody gets offended, but it's often people who aren't chasing the shiny object all the time.
mm,
They're okay with doing the boring work. They're okay with kind of plodding along and just showing up and being consistent and stepping outside their comfort zone. But they're not, they're, they just have that sturdiness where it's like, I'm just going to be consistent, I'm just going to show up, and they're reliable in showing
yeah,
up for themselves and their business. That has brought like some of our best results, clients who can just be reliable, whatever, however that looks like. And yeah, it's messy, and yeah, sometimes they fall off track and they get back on, but just
yeah,
showing up is what we're looking for. I've had people come in where they're the most confident, they have this beautiful energy on camera, and then they just won't show up. You can't do a lot with that. There's not a lot we can do with that. And so, yeah, showing up consistently, being willing to do the boring work and slowly step out our comfort zone, and to be a little bit cringe and to be open. I think
yeah,
people who are open, they do really well in business.
yeah.
People who just aren't open to trying things and just aren't open to testing things, it just makes it harder for
Yeah.
sure.
And I think maybe as a business owner at the beginning as well, it's very confrontational because
Yeah.
you are everything. You're the sales, you're the marketing, you're the finance person, you're the designer. And I think it really helps you identify your strengths and weaknesses as a business owner and where you're more resistant to do things as opposed to, oh, this is my easy and safe way. But
Yeah.
you have to be able to identify that and be open that, hey, I am not good in this area and I either need help or I need to pay more attention to it, right?
Oh, 100%. And honestly, this is where, as business owners, we have to wear so many hats. We can't often see our blind spots.
Yeah.
Like, we literally can't see it. We could be showing up consistently on social media and doing this, and things aren't happening. And we think it's because of the economy, or, oh, I need to do more of this or more of that. But like, I had a conversation with another jewelry business owner the other day, and she was like, yeah, I can't drive online sales because of I need to post more and I need to do more this. I took one look at the structure of the business and I was like, that's not even the issue here. Like the issue is the structure. Now, this is somebody who would have spent hours and hours and hours and weeks and months doubling down on what she thought she needed to do to fix it, when I'm like, you can do that and that's not going to solve the issue here.
Yeah.
And so I think that's where doing business on your own, especially as a new business owner, just makes it harder. You don't necessarily know. You can put all your details in ChatGPT. I've tested this so many times. ChatGPT tells you what you want to hear. If you don't fully understand and you haven't lived through it and you haven't navigated it, you can't. It can't give you that insight.
No.
I've tried. And so it's one of those things where I'm just like, hey, if you're new, if you're established, if you're scaling, don't do business alone, because the blind spots that are missed by us just being too close and too involved costs us so much money in the long run.
100%.
Even in the short run.
Yeah.
But
sorry, go ahead.
No. This has been so good, Kate. I know we have 5 minutes to rock and roll, but if you want us to do one quick question, we can do that. But if you want to finish that thought.
Let's do one more question. So, which is the final question that I have. And, we've covered a lot as, I guess, so we've covered a lot when it comes to, I guess, the first stage of a business owner and how to grow and how to get your first sale. Is there anything else that we've kind of, we've spoken about a lot, but is there anything that we're kind of missing from today's talk that, we should cover as the final question or the final conversation?
Oh, this is a great question. I mean, we've definitely touched on some really crucial elements. We haven't deep dived into the actual, the nitty gritty of it.
Yeah.
And I think if I'm looking at a small business owner, if I'm talking to a small business owner who's just getting started but with their new jewelry business, I would say the biggest thing that holds business owners at that stage back is their belief in themselves, their belief that they're capable. And nobody can give that to you. You have to build that belief through taking action, through surrounding yourself with other people doing the same as proof. Your body needs proof. Your mind needs actual proof of other people like you doing the thing, making it happen. And without that belief that it's possible for you, what you're seeing out there is possible for you too, you can take action on things, and your subconscious is going to try prove that I posted on Instagram and look, nothing happened. I did this and look, nothing happened. So we have to work on that belief. That belief is like a huge part of building a business, because we can either prove something's not going to work or we can prove it is. And
100%.
that if you go into business proving it's not going to work, I can guarantee you're going to succeed. You're going to succeed in showing it doesn't work. If you go in being like, I'm going to keep showing up till it works, I believe I can make this happen.
Exactly.
Completely different.
And I think it's, confidence sells, not just for you, but for your customer as well. If you believe in your brand, your product, and who you are as an individual, it's a lot better. But if you're not confident, then, who's going to believe your brand and product if you're not confident in it with the right mindset?
100%. I completely agree. Well, Kate, this has been such a wonderful episode. Thank you so much for hosting. I love these questions, love these deep dives. And I know we're going to have people listening who want to follow along on your journey, connect with you, check out your brooches. So where can our listeners find you and how can they support you?
Sure. So you can find me, I think the best way is on the Instagram, which is BGLY_brooches. There you can see behind the scenes. You can get a bit of a more feel of the brooches that we make, and then from there you can also go to our website. We are building followers, so that is a very important thing. So please follow us, and also if you join the newsletter, we do give off a 10% discount for your first order as well.
Amazing. We will link all of those in the show notes so anyone listening can go follow along, connect with Kate, check out her brooches. They're so gorgeous. And Kate, thank you so much for being here. This has been so much fun.
Thanks, Robyn. Thanks for being in the hot seat today.